Hello and welcome to episode 1483 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Thursday, March 5th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this afternoon by both Justin Mason and Joe Orrico. Gentlemen, hello.
How we doing?
How we doing, baby?
Doing very well. We are now firmly into March, firmly into spring training. The WBC has started baseball season. I don't want to say in full gear, but like we've hit another gear. We're at least in second or third gear. I haven't driven a manual in forever, and I was bad at it when I did, so I don't know the best way to say that. I know like fifth gear is the highest, right?
It depends on your car, but yeah,
I guess, yeah, mostly.
Fourth or fifth gear, yeah. I still drive a stick shift.
So, yeah, I would say we're in like second gear right now, right? Is that a good analogy?
Always wanted to learn. Always wanted to learn.
It's a good skill. I mean, it's probably
that
a
car is
fleeting
older
skill
than
to know.
Joe.
That's the thing. If you're going to be driving a manual, it's going to be a car older than Joe.
It is a 2000 Honda Civic that
It's not older. I was a year old in 2000.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. Joe says, stands up to it.
It was probably made in 99. So
True. If we got the actual, dig into the parts there and check the date made on them.
It is on its last legs, but I've put like 280,000 miles on that thing.
Bro, you get a quarter cent out of a car. That's big time. Yeah. All right, we're talking pictures. It's part 2 of probably 30, and who cares? Because our audience likes it. We got comments on, hey, love that you guys go deep on all the positions. I play in this sort of deep league. Other people talking about, hey, I love that you still cover a lot of the shallow stuff. We know you like deep league and NFBC stuff, but thank you for still giving the shallow. We run the gamut, and we're only in part 2 of starters, so we're still talking a lot of really, really good pitchers here. But as we talked about in just the last episode, which was kind of tough for part 1, we were already talking about flaws with, basically every guy outside of the top 3 or 4. We were debating, is Yamamoto or Sanchez in there with Skubalski and Crochet, or are they on their own? But either way, the questions start fast and furious. Now we go to a group of not quite aces. They got a lot of skill. They've had ace seasons, but they're not being treated as unquestioned. You let them lead your rotation without a doubt. And that's got George Kirby, Dylan Cease, Jesus Luzardo, Eury Pérez, Joe Ryan, Framber Valdez, Nick Pivetta, Sonny Gray, and Kevin Gausman. A group that can go a lot of different ways, and they have some different profiles here. But let's just take it in order and start with George Kirby, who for me, and I like that he's up here. This is based on ADP. This is not my ranking. But he is my favorite of this bunch. I do think George Kirby has the best chance in this group here to be a really consistent ace. He's got that amazing command and control. He's shown bat missing ability. I still think he can put it all together, Joe, for what is truly a transcendent ace season. I am still all in on Kirby. He lost maybe a little bit of development last year, or development's maybe the wrong word, just time because of his injury. I don't think he was necessarily going to develop a whole bunch, but that was supposed to be his big 200-inning season. It ends up being 126. Are we getting the big 200-inning sub-3 or low-3 ERA George Kirby mega breakout?
I think it's very similar to like the Logan Gilbert conversation. Several years of close to 200, the year where you're kind of injured, but still in an injured year, making more than 20 starts, giving you 130 some odd innings, or 126 in this case. So it's a kind of a similar situation they're both in. Kirby feels like a really good value to me. Now, I know like the shoulder problem will probably worry some people, as we've talked about. Who knows when injuries are fully gone and when you can expect there to be no problems in the aftermath. Kirby wasn't quite himself last year on the surface. A 4.21 ERA, 119 WHIP weren't amazing. The strikeout minus walk rate was right where it's been for his entire career. The walk rate went up a couple points, but it also coincided with the strikeout rate going up to 26%. And I think we'll all take that if he's a 5% walk rate, 26% strikeout rate guy. That was kind of the issue for the first couple of years. Is he going to run up the strikeouts? But the swinging strike rates being where they are now, they're not at 9% anymore. It was 12% last year. Right. So I think the strikeouts can be there. I think we can probably depend on him for volume. And I think that the performance is going to be pretty solid, considering below the surface, it was a 337 FIP last year. Even in the down year, coming back from an injury, a 119 WHIP. He feels very safe and very projectable, especially with half of his starts coming at Safeco. Not at Safeco, at T-Mobile.
At T-Mobile. Justin, outside of, the injury was a big part for Kirby. But then what really got him and what kind of kept his ERA over 4 was the duds, which, for me is a 5+ earned run start. I just call that a dud because you can't really work your way out of that. And he had 4 of those, including a couple 7 bangers. But in between that, he was George Kirby. In fact, that is encapsulated beautifully in his September, which he opened with 7 at Steinbrenner Field, which you give him a little bit of pass for because of that park, and then closed strong with 4 really good starts, during which he put up a 2.95 ERA, 33 strikeouts, 3 walks in 21 innings. Because it looks like maybe just a few bad starts as he was battling back from the injury, are you comfortable that Kirby is healthy and ready to be, that 200 inning guy? Or are you carrying some of last year's injury concern into 2026 for Kirby, Justin?
A little of both.
Okay.
I think Kirby's one of those guys. So Kirby's not like Logan Gilbert for me in terms of the injury, right? Because Logan Gilbert had an elbow injury. And we've seen guys like, this is going to be a bad example because he's now getting Tommy John. But like we saw Pablo Lopez deal with kind of like this off and on shoulder issue early on in his career.
Right.
And never get a surgery and able to work his way through it, right? Because it's a muscular thing and less of a tendon thing. I think George Kirby could do that. But I also don't know, like, is he fully healthy? We saw those blow-ups at the end of the season. Against the Rays, like you mentioned, and against the Mets, where he got 7 dropped on his head. And if you
always rebounded from him, though. The next start from each dud was, except for the first 2, he had back-to-back.
But are those going to be more common? Like that?
I think they're going to be less common, is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking they are a product of last year with the injury for Kirby, with some inconsistency. My thinking is that he's going to not have as many of those and be an ace. I'm also biased toward Kirby. I want to be clear on that. I love this guy.
So
I'm
Kirby
looking at the
too.
rosy end of it.
But he's also not a guy with like massively great stuff, right? Like he really relies on command and control. And that to me is a little bit scarier because we've seen guys who massively rely on command and control just fall off a cliff, right? Like
not with 113 location plus, they don't.
Kyle Hendricks
threw 40 miles an hour.
I understand.
And he throws 96. So no, that completely separates them, though. Then it's not a control focus. It's a low velo versus high velo. So I think that completely pushes them apart. I'm going to look for you. While you continue talking, to see if there's any location plus guys like that fall off. Go ahead.
I just have some trepidation, right? Like I'm not saying he's off my board. I'm not saying I'm busting him down my projections. When push comes to shove, though, in a draft, I have not drafted George Kirby.
Okay.
Or at least I don't think I have. I probably should check that before I actually say that. But I don't feel comfortable, especially considering where he's going, taking him over maybe other guys in that same area. Now, I think he's close to being like in the area where it's like, okay, he is kind of the last best guy of that tier, right? Like I'm still, especially if we're talking about today's tier, there's not many guys in it where I'm going, well, I'm not taking George Kirby over this guy, right?
So
like
this is the ADP. This is an OC ADP, so you can judge it as though you were in an OC today. This is the order. So let's go to the next guy. Let's bring in Cease here, since we talked a good bit about Kirby, and now we're going to start comparing him against some of the other guys. The very next guy is Dylan Cease, somebody you'd rather have than Kirby, Justin.
I mean, no, not really. And I think that's one of, like, honestly, when looking at this list, I go, there's like 2 guys maybe I take over George Kirby here, right? Dylan Cease is great for what he does, which is volume the hell out of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and if I am taking Dylan Cease, it's because I've already taken a top tier ace at the top, or maybe a guy who I am unsure about the health, right? But I think I'm going to get really, really good results when he is on the mound. The problem with Dylan Cease is, and it's kind of apropos that he is going to Toronto, is he is the Alex Rios of pitchers, which is great one year and terrible the next.
Terrible overstates it a little bit, but he has some dips.
I mean, a 4.5 ERA is terrible, especially when you're logging all of that.
The whips are the real killer. I agree. Like it's 2 4.5 ERAs with 1.33 and 1.42 whip. The reason I say it's
massive volume, and usually we love massive volume because massive volume gets you the strikeouts, and Dylan Cease definitely gets you the strikeouts. But like when you are eating 180 innings of a 4.5 ERA or 130 or 140 WHIP, like that is actually disastrous in many
I've
regards.
actually been writing about some negative volume this year, this exact principle that you're talking about, Justin, where in some
That's a
cases,
great article, honestly.
you don't want the guys to keep piling up the volume because they're bludgeoning you. And that is a downside with Cease that you are right to underscore, because when you do get the rough season, the 23 or the 25, you get all those innings punching both of your ratios every 5 days, to the point where the wins, which were only 8 and 7 in those 2 years because he was struggling, simply aren't helping. And the strikeouts, the wins and the strikeouts are not canceling out the damage. So that is the downside with him.
This was the pre last year Cal Raleigh argument, right? Because Cal Raleigh has always been kind of a plate appearance, hog at catcher. But
600 at bats of 220 average.
Or Kyle Schwarber, right? Like, if when they're hitting 215 or 197 and giving you 600 plate appearances, it murders you, right? And like, yeah, great, you get 60 home runs, but like you also lost the batting average category by 60 points. Like, so like, yeah, great, you won home runs and RBIs by a lot, but
so then
you're at the bottom. So like for me, I don't know what version of Cease I'm gonna get.
And that's fair. Let's bring in the Jays fan and see what he thinks, because, again, I think Justin is right to underscore that downside. And I wonder, Joe, as you talk about Cease, your new favorite pitcher for your team, is there a world where if you're seeing another tough season like 2025, and I don't know what the cutoff would be, right, because you don't want to do it too early, but if we got to June and you were at 450, 135 again, would it be prudent to cut Cease at that point?
No, I couldn't do it.
You ride it out the whole way, and that's part of his downside, though, because he hasn't ever turned it around in season. He's usually like who he is from the jump and stays that way, at least on the surface here. The only reason I pushed back on the every other year thing from Justin was that 21 and 22 were 2 good years in a row. But then if you're going 22 to 25, it is good, bad, which would make this year a good one. Are you buying in on your new superstar, Joe?
So I've spent several months debating this point back and forth ever since that first initial pass and tweet dropped, and buddies immediately got on the group chat. Holy shit, we got
Cease.
And then it's like, we got Cease. So there's kind of some mixed emotions there. But I think there's a couple of things with Dylan Cease. The fact that he does seem to alternate the good and the bad seasons means that this is the year to buy in. It's not the year when Dylan Cease is the second, third round pick. It is after the poor season, because you are getting that 75 to 85 type of pick range. Now, over the next couple of weeks, he'll probably move up like all the pitchers, but he's been reasonably priced considering his skill set, I think. One thing that leads me to believe that he could have success other than just the alternating year thing is the fact that Pete Walker has had a recent success story with the same type of pitching profile, and that's Robbie Ray. The same type of guy who runs up the strikeouts but has really shaky command. Robbie Ray came to Toronto in his first season and put it all together. The command was much better than it had ever been. He dropped his walk rate to below 7%, following a year where it had been 18%, 11, 13, 12. It's not the exact same pitcher, but it's a similar prototype there with Robbie Ray and Dylan Cease. And I think that, of all the pitching coaches in the league, Pete Walker knows how to handle this type of profile. So I'm willing to do it. I think I have one share of Dylan Cease as an SP2. I've seen people with builds where they take 5 hitters and then go Cease as their SP1. I'd rather have a little bit more security there because of everything you guys mentioned. The volume could be poor. The performances could be poor. With the high volume, like there are a lot of risks, but I think this is the year to buy in on Dylan Cease.
I mean, I think you're pretty much guaranteed volume, right? Like,
right.
Pretty much.
I mean, short of injury, which of course we can't project.
I mean,
the Blue Jays always go for the volume guys. The Jays love the volume guys.
Yes, they do.
5 straight seasons of 165 innings or more. Like, he's been an absolute horse. You're going to get volume. To me, if I'm on the fence, as I am, right? But if a listener's on the fence, the thing I want people to be watching this spring is zone percentage and first strike percentage, right? On Dylan Cease. I want to see if we're going to see him make the gains we want him to make. He cannot walk guys, right? Like he can't walk the yard, and I want to see him getting on top of hitters. His first start, he did not do that. It was an inning and 2/3. Who really cares? super small sample. But if you have a draft at the end of March and you were debating Dylan Cease being a part of that plan, I would highly recommend just keeping an eye on that zone percentage and that first strike percentage for Dylan Cease, because I think those will be really big indicators of his plan when he's coming to the mound.
No, I definitely agree with that on Cease, and I do think that if you want to buy in, there is a discount, but not as much of a discount as I would have hoped.
It's not as much as it should, because he signed the big contract, right? Like, he always
That's exactly it.
Out. And
countered the dip.
If he was going at like 120, 125, I'd be all over it, absolutely. But right here at this point, not so much.
No, that's where I come out too. Let's go to Kyle Bradish, who is getting a lot of attention this offseason and really been thrust back into the mix big time. He is the 17th starter off the board. I actually did put Bradish and Cease out of order there, and I apologize. And then the way I broke up some of these next two groupings, it's not completely in direct order of the ADP. What I should have said is that today's pitchers are the next 20 in ADP, but the order that we're going to talk about them is not necessarily the order. That would have been the more appropriate way to say it. But anyway, I was actually having a little conversation with Bradish about Bradish yesterday, not with him, about Bradish yesterday in the Pitcher List Discord. And there's another guy and I who are like all the way in on him. We're willing to pay this price. And then somebody who had a little bit of concern because he's coming off, injury. And I pushed back on that because I don't really think he should be treated as though Kyle Bradish is coming off of injury the way we normally would for a TJ returner, because he returned last year and got 6 starts that I think was able to work out a lot of the kinks. Now, that happened to be really great results, but even if they had been mediocre to bad, like I feel the same way about Eury Pérez, who's actually going to come up next on our list, so we could really push them together if we want, because it is Bradish and Perez who are going very high after returning last year, kind of working out their TJ kinks, and now can they go for a full season? Start with you, Joe. Are you willing to pay the premium on Bradish? He's got 70-some innings the last 2 years combined. Actually, I think it's 71 innings combined, which has people concerned, but I'm of the mind that Bradish can go $175 this year, assuming he stays healthy, and I'm drafting him as though he's in the Tommy John honeymoon phase. Are you concerned?
So something that gave me a little bit of comfort was just looking at a couple of other pitchers who were going from really small workloads to rather big ones. And the first one that popped into mind is jumping ahead here a little bit, but it's another guy who's had the TJ. It's Drew Rasmussen, who went from 28 innings in 2024 to 150 in 2025. Yep. Could Bradish do something similar? I think that's probably what I would expect. Like pushing 170, 180. I wouldn't go that far, but I think 150. Why not?
Because why would they hold him back, I guess is my question. Because he's 29. He's had a 170 reached as his previous high in 2023. And I'm just wondering, why would they hold him back?
My feeling would be that they just don't want to push it too far for a guy who's only thrown 70 innings over the last 2 years, and they would more want to slow play it just to avoid a potential re-injury. Like, I could see him being more of a 5-and-dive guy than somebody that they want to go 7 or 8 innings. That is conjecture. I'm not sure what they're going to do, but I could see them taking it a little bit easier with him. Also considering that he is kind of the prize in that rotation, at least as far as I see it. If he gets hurt, that rotation is in for some trouble. So sure. I think they would want to take it a little bit easier with the guy who should be there. Maybe
counter argument
considered their ace, but
I think I got countered too.
A counter argument, they're not good enough to not throw him that much. This is a team that missed the playoffs and it wasn't close, right? After winning 100 something. Especially. Yeah, and it was their pitching.
A lot of injuries too, though.
And I'm not saying I'm projecting Bradish for 180 innings. But I do see an outcome where he does get to 100 innings. And the comp I want to use is Robbie Ray last year. In 2024, he threw that 30 innings coming back from Tommy John. And then last year they said 182.
What about DeGrom as well? I was going to bring him up. And I know he's a unicorn, but he didn't throw he threw double-digit innings for 7 years and then dropped 170
I think they're going to let him go as long as
too.
He's healthy. My bigger question is kind of similar, going back to this Robbie Ray comp, is what is it going to be for him when he gets to that 140, 150 mark? It has been so long since he threw that many innings in a season. Will he have kind of a fade? I do worry about that a little bit, and that's why I haven't been as high on Kyle Bradish this offseason, as everybody else is really starting to push him up their board.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that point? I was doing something else and I was distracted. I'll just.
Sorry, I was going to say what is he going to be when he gets a lot of innings on him, right?
Sure.
Like we just
is he going to wear down? You're asking.
Yeah, like Robbie Ray did last year.
Right.
Robbie Ray was looking great, wore down as the season went on, and I think it was just fatigue, and I do worry about that a little bit. Now, if you're in an active trading league, I'm fine drafting Kyle Bradish. And then being like, okay, I know halfway through the season, especially if I'm good on pitching, I'm going to try to move him for some hitting or something like that.
I don't mind that. Like, yeah, having Bradish early and then trading.
If you're in a league that isn't very active with trading or is NFBC, I'm kind of pushing him not far down my list, but just a little bit, like towards the bottom of the tier, right? Like, so is this a guy who take over Dylan Cease? Yes. Though part of me wants to, like, even after the conversation, I want to move Cease back up now. I'm like, I want to buy in on Dylan Cease. I really do, especially because I've never been on him before. But I think this is a guy that I have like just right above Dylan Cease in this tier, and I'm a little bit nervous just because it's been. I mean, he's thrown 5 spring innings so far, which means he's only like 25 innings away in spring from throwing what he's thrown in the majors.
Who cares, though?
I'm just saying
have a battery that's going to run out. Like
he might.
We get hung up on that. I'll really be curious to see what happens with him. They should not treat him with kid gloves. He's 29. What do you get from babying a 29-year-old?
I think you just go, especially like
Bradish. We're talking about.
If this was the Dodgers, I would say, they need to be careful with him, right?
And they've shown that they would, right? We know going in with them that they're always going to be extra careful.
And because they're going to be so good. Like, even if it was the Yankees, I'd be like, the Yankees should be, like, careful with them, right? Because the Yankees are going to be in the playoffs. The Orioles are not guaranteed the playoffs. This is a super, super tough division. They really need to take a step forward from last year. And I think Bradish needs to be a huge part of that.
So now Perez is the same but different. Eury Pérez, again, returned from TJ last year, did get 95 innings, so 3x what we saw from Bradish. Where he differs, though, is that was his career high. And that was, after missing a year, we saw 91 innings in 2023 and then 95 last year. But we did still see a lot of good Eury. He did have a 4.25 ERA, but a 105 whip. And he had some walk issues that were very much TJ related. It just looked like standard control issues that a TJ returner has. I think he walked 3+ in 5 different outings, and that's not usually something that Eury Pérez does. Again, I'm treating him like somebody who has a good chance and should be setting a career high in innings. Maybe not 170 like I have Bradish, but I don't see. He is younger, so the point I said about Bradish not being treated with kid gloves, the Marlins could kid glove Perez a little bit more, but 1, they don't usually do that. They let their guys go when they're healthy and good. And 2, we got to see if he can really have a full season. He's had 19 and 20 starts. It's time for the 30. Even if that is 145, 150 innings, I'm okay with that. But I'm in on Eury Pérez this year too. Justin, let's start with you on Perez. How does your approach with him differ from that of Bradish?
I'm full go on Eury. I mean, through 90 innings last year, the stuff was unreal. This is, like you said, typical Tommy John. We're going to talk about this with Sandy Alcantara like later, either this episode or next episode. And I think he's ready to go. I think he is. Like I
agree.
I honestly just want to see him get through spring healthy. I am not concerned at all about the runs he gave up in his first 2 starts in spring. What I love to see is that the strikeouts are back. I do want to see the walks kind of come under control. Walks are something we kind of do care about, but I'm not worried about that yet. It's just 3 walks in spring, so like it's probably not going to end up being a big deal. I just think Eury has the talent to be the top pitcher in fantasy.
Right.
Yeah. Like I honestly, like I have not drafted Eury very much this year, but it's mostly because I've played the ADP game and just gotten unlucky with that. And I'm going to make sure I have Eury on my teams, moving forward.
Yeah, I have been getting some, and I'm not afraid to add more to that stock. Obviously, I don't want to be too overstuffed on a guy who only has a max of 95 innings, Joe. But Eury Pérez looks the part. Again, a lot more innings last year than Bradish. Does that change your approach with him after the TJ recovery and now going into what should be his first full season for Eury Pérez? How do you approach him?
Yeah, he feels like a guy where there won't be as much of an innings concern. I get it being younger. Maybe the Marlins want to take it a little bit easy, but when he starts last year, I feel like they're going to want to start getting their money's worth with him eventually. And,
Absolutely.
it's not like they're paying him a ton of money and he's still very young, whatever, but he's been around in their system for like 6 years at this point. I think it's time for him to pitch a full season. After what he did last year, I was really impressed, even though a lot of people will look at the 4.25 ERA. 367 FIP. The walk rate was, that's always the big thing when you're coming back from TJ. The command wasn't as good, but it was only an 8% walk rate. It wasn't like he was pushing 13% or something like that. It was manageable even in his first return from TJ. So he gets that down to 6 or 7 this year, maybe.
I think he absolutely can, because I wrote up his profile just last night for Eury Pérez, so this is all fresh for me, and I talked about how he did have those 3 walk games, those 3+ walk games that he would have. But the fact that he still only had an 8%, like you pointed out, was what really stood out to me, Joe, because despite a 94 location plus, which is bad, 6 points lower than average, to still only be at 8% tells me that when he wasn't having those bad control games, he was his usual self. And that's why I attribute it to just standard TJ return for Perez. So I think we sweep it. We're all in on him. I want to go to another guy in his division that I really like, but I think, Justin, that you're a little bit more tepid on Jesús Luzardo. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I am ready for him to make a huge breakthrough season this year. And I think the only thing that prevented him from it last year was really the 20 runs in 2 games, the 2 mega meltdowns that he had that absolutely just tanked his season from an ERA standpoint. He still had a 3.92, which isn't bad, but imagine where he would have been if those were regular outings. I think he's got all the tools to be a mega ace. What say you, Mr. Mason?
I think he has the tools to be an ace.
Are you concerned that he won't get there, though?
Yeah, I'm concerned he won't get there. I have 2 major concerns with Luzardo. First and foremost is his injury history over the course of his career. Last year was a fantastic year for him, where he threw 183 2/3. But we have seen over the course of his career just getting hurt, random stuff. And he throws so violently, I do worry that he will get hurt again. He also has, and this is the other part of the other issue, but also one of the reasons I think he gets hurt too, he has a really tough time repeating his mechanics, start in and start out. And that's what led to, and probably some pitch tipping too, but I think that's a result of tipping, the mechanics.
Yeah, it did come out a lot during those 2 mega outings.
He really has a hard time repeating his mechanics start to start. And so I think he's one of these guys that will have these blow up starts. Like we kind of talk about like, oh, those 2 starts ruined his season. And I think a lot of people are like, well, I'm just not going to include them. No, you have to include them, because that is part of who Jesús Luzardo is.
I wouldn't bury my head in the sand on him. Like, he has dud outings, but those were extremely dud.
Biblical.
Biblical is a good way to put it. And they were in a row. That's the crazy part, right? Like, he gives up the 12 against Milwaukee, and you're like, well, he's been so good. He had a 2.15 ERA on the season before that. He had back-to-back 10K games in Coors and Sacramento before that. There's no world where you're not starting him against Milwaukee at home. He gives up 12. Okay, it's one bad outing. I'm not going to lose my, ace to this point over that. I'll go ahead and stick with him. Punched in the face again in Toronto, 8 runs. Okay, well, I got to get him out now. The Cubs are pretty good. They're going to smoke him. 6 innings, 1 run, 10 Ks. So he really whambeezied folks in those 3 starts specifically. And then when you put him back in for at Miami, 5 innings, 4 runs. So
if you put him back in like for at Miami, like I'm sure a lot of people did, but I'm sure there were other people who didn't, which means like, yes, he had a 3.92 ERA on the season, but he didn't for your fantasy team. That's for damn sure. So.
No, because if you tried to manage it, you probably got burnt, because it wasn't about the matchups. It was about Luzardo being off and getting killed, as Justin points out, the repeating his mechanics, the control issues, and they just absolutely cooked him. He's had dud issues in the past, Justin. So to your point about that, this is not particularly new for Luzardo to have a couple real mega bombs too. In fact, I think he's had 10s before as well, not just the 5 earned runs. I think he has a 10 from a couple years ago when he was with the Marlins. But he's prone to these super bad outings. And go ahead.
He had a 9.
A 9, okay. Was it against the Mets?
No, it was against the Rays.
I'm remembering Marlins start against the Mets.
Not since 2020. So
Okay.
I went back to 2021. So
then it could either be a different Marlin or I'm
Yeah.
remembering improperly, probably.
But like, I mean, and to his credit, like honestly, like I went back to
Miss Sandy. I'm sorry.
I went back to 2020, the start of 2021, and kind of brought up his game log while you were talking, and like I mean, he's got a fair amount of like 5 earned runs, blah blah blah, but like the super disastrous ones were those two, and then the Tampa Bay one that I was just referencing in 2024. Like for the most part, like he doesn't have these blow ups, but he will tend to have long stretches where he just really can't figure out his mechanics, and then he gets hurt a lot, and so I just don't want to pay this price. It's really a price issue for me. It's not like I do see a world where like Jesus Luzardo figures out. I mean, this is a former top prospect, right?
Who are your TGFBI starters again?
Yamamoto and DeGrom.
Okay, I'm just like wondering who you pay for, because you create all these rules about drafting pitchers. Then I'm like, well, who does that leave for you? Like, where do you go? Because I mean, obviously, DeGrom.
I'm pretty good at the pitching side of things. I don't know if you heard.
I mean, you had an amazing year last year. I know you had some teams that were like really off the charts.
It was my hitting that was a problem last year. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I know, and I'm not saying that being risk averse has no value to it, but I'm like, who do you draft if you're cutting everybody out for this, that, and the other reason?
It's about being risk averse early, right? It's not that you don't want to take risk on your team.
Yamamoto and DeGrom.
I don't think they're that risky. I really don't. Like,
didn't we have a whole conversation about Yamamoto's risk? I didn't personally see it. I think he's going to be fine.
I don't think he's risky.
But I feel like we did have conversation that, is he going to get as many innings because he's on? Maybe it was all Joe.
That was my concern.
Yeah,
maybe it was all Joe.
I'm not super concerned.
I cannot be the only one listening to this right now that laughs a little bit when Justin Mason has Jacob DeGrom on his team.
I mean, I am sure people listen and laugh at me all the time. That is part of the charm and appeal.
And obviously, you have to draft somebody. I know you can't just eliminate all risk entirely.
No,
and I don't want to rake you over the coals on Luzardo either, because he has flaws. So
yeah, let's be honest here.
We're being playful on this.
So I will say, like Mike Gianella in the Tout Wars mixed draft drafted all relievers.
I saw that. Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah,
because there's no innings minimum in Tout Wars.
So he kind of gamed it a little bit.
He did.
A little sneaky game.
Anthony Aniano brought up a really interesting addition to that strategy, which nobody has tried before. The addition part. Doug Dennis has used this in AL only tout for the last 2 years and won. Mm-hmm. But why not just drop the top 2 closers and then draft all the guys aren't going to pitch? Right? Like, why draft all these other relievers? Why not draft Pablo Lopez and Spencer Schwellenbach?
God! So you're literally only getting Mason Miller and Cade Smith's innings?
Yeah, and their ratios.
Right. Like, you just take what they do and then 7 duds.
Mm-hmm.
That's. I saw it because I was in your stream and I was in Bubba and Bloom's. I was bouncing back and forth during that draft, and
it actually
we were clocking what Gianella was doing. Yeah, he was clearly running a gambit.
I clocked it real fast.
Why would you take the duds though? Why would you take the duds?
Well,
so nobody else can even don't even let a reliever.
If you get the Josh Hader year from one of your relievers, that strategy is destroyed because you have to win ERA and WHIP.
But like the Lopez Schwellenbach point,
because they're not going to get any stats, so they can't hurt you, right?
It feels like a waste of a roster spot in a way.
I mean, the whole gambit is.
But then you don't have to draft pitchers at all after the first 2 until the last, 7 rounds.
Yeah, I guess it feels really risky. I don't know.
The whole thing's risky.
Yeah, the whole thing is absolutely risky, but you're looking for like zeros for nobody to interrupt what, and I'm just using 2 guys, Mason Miller and Cade Smith, do for you. You just want what they do. But it is risky as a whole gambit entirely.
One of them has a bad year. But I mean, like, if one of your top tier closers in that strategy anyways has a bad year, you're screwed anyways, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's get back to starters though. Icky relievers. Too scary to talk about saves. Let's talk about my boy Framber. Oh, Joe, I didn't realize both of us got a new stud in this tier, with Cease going to your Jays and Framber to my Tigers. I'm excited about it. Obviously, we talked about him in the offseason, and a lot was made of crossing up his catcher, which was totally lame. We all acknowledge that. I don't really think it held him back. I think the fact that he's older, and there are questions about how his arm will age with those skills, was probably more of what held him back. I never really thought he was going to get like the 7-8 year deal. But I like the Tigers' landing spot. They've shown themselves to be adept at pitching development these last several years. Not that he needs a lot of development, but when you already have a stud, a tweak here, a tweak there, all of a sudden gets him back to the top tier, which is where he was for 2 of the last 4 years. 22 and 24 were sub-3 ERA seasons for Framber. He's still pretty good in the other 2 years, 3 and 5 there. I don't want to shortchange those. But he did have the walk here at the worst time. The stats were rough, and the whole issue with the crossing the catcher, Justin, did make him a little bit of a lesser target there for some teams. Tigers end up with him. Do you like the fit here? Is Framber still somebody you go to as a bankable workhorse?
Yeah. I mean, I love the fit here. It's, really, really good park. It's a great team. You're going to get a lot of win potential. I think the defense behind him is good enough to get a lot of those ground balls. And I also don't think Dylan Dingler is someone you want to fuck with, right? So
I dare him to do that with Ding or Rogers, right?
Yeah,
Either of the Tigers catchers.
Yeah, he's not doing that again. And I'm sure like he was told, like, you never do that again. Like, there's got to be some sort of provision in that contract where, like, you do something like this, we will void your contract.
Yeah, because that was lame. I hope he handled it behind the scenes, because it soured me on him a lot. And I like Framber, but like, you just
the fact the Astros never even entered into the conversation tells me
I just imagine, my guess, and a lot of teams like to do this, is that it was just handled behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I hope that they said, no way, brother. You're insane.
Yeah.
How dare you, and I don't know if they probably didn't bring him back because they're looking forward and they're trying to get younger. So I don't think that was entirely because of that. But we did see teams not really going crazy for Framber.
Yeah, there were definitely teams that were clearly out, right?
Yeah,
so.
and it's fair to wonder if that played a role. Mm-hmm. Joe, with Framber going to Detroit, any changes for you, positive or negative, on his value, or is it more or less status quo for you?
Now, from what I remember of a conversation we had maybe a month or 6 weeks ago, it might have just been a show with Justin and I where we talked about the Tigers' defense versus the Astros' defense. Am I remembering this correctly?
I think we did talk about it when he signed. And,
the Tigers' defense is a lot worse than the Astros is. And as a huge ground ball guy, that could hurt him a little bit.
Absolutely. I think that is a good thing to bring up. Pena's way better than even if McGonigal breaks camp. He's been showing some strides on defense. I think he can handle himself, but he's not a plus defender. And Pena definitely is.
Yeah. Framber, I mean, I think he's still relatively safe, but a part of the whole crossing up the catcher thing is that people didn't talk as much about how bad he was down the stretch. People only talked about the cross up and not the 5.20 ERA in the second half, which is,
if it wasn't for that grand slam, he would have had a better ERA.
Like, he honestly, down the stretch, it was tough to even start Framber. I had him on a couple of teams last year, and I think there might have been a couple of weeks in September where I actually did sit him. 5 earned runs, 3 earned runs, 6 earned runs, 7 earned runs. It was really dark end of the season. How much did that factor in for me? Not a ton, but it's something in the back of my head. I think it's kind of interesting that the guy that he went to play for is a former manager of his who maybe knew something.
Right.
Like, I know Framber, I know his heart.
Yeah.
Something like that. So a guy who knew him. I think that's part of the factor of why he went to Detroit, maybe. But I don't have any real problem with Framber as my SP2. I think if you're doing some kind of punt pitching build and he is your SP1, I wouldn't love it so much. I think there is a lot of risk there. But as a second or maybe even a third starting pitcher on a very heavy build, I can get behind it. I just wouldn't really want to ace, considering kind of the lower strikeout rate, some of the second half problems. But he's been very, very dependable going back to the COVID year. The highest ERA in that mark was last year, and it was 3.66. So I'm not overly concerned. If anything, maybe it's just the fact that he's not going to strike out a ton of guys, and he is getting a little bit older. This will be, he turned 33 at the end of this year. So he's not super old, but he is getting older with a lot of 200 or close to 200 inning seasons under his belt. We could start to see some wear and tear with the lack of strikeouts, with the poor defense. He's not a target, but he's not a fade either. I think he's a fine SP2.
Yeah, and Framber Valdez is someone I don't mind buying his dip on, right? Like, he's down pick 87 in the most recent 16 online championships. That's going to go back to February 25th. I'm actually going to tighten that up a little bit. Let's see here. Let's get the last 10 going back to the 28th now. And then let me look for Framber, and he's at pick 88. So right in that same area. He's been living in the same zone. His min is 76. His max is 100. perfectly fair price for Framber Valdez if you like him. Let's talk about somebody who isn't really moving in the drafts that I've seen despite a little bit of a scare, and that's Joe Ryan. And obviously things have gone sideways with Minnesota losing Pablo Lopez, tearing down the team last year. Things have been an issue, and then all of a sudden they get some news that his back is nicked up a little bit for Joe Ryan. But we haven't really seen it hold him back completely. He's supposed to start spring here soon. He had a bullpen slated to face live hitters in the coming days. That was the report on March 1st. So he may have already faced them, to be honest, but I got that from the RotoWire report here. But like I said, the drafts I've been in since that was announced, 0 discount on Joe Ryan. People are sticking with him. I don't think that's necessarily bad. I just was a little bit surprised because of the way we as a fantasy community overreact. I expected him to go down, and I didn't see that discount. Joe, are you still drafting Joe Ryan at cost, or are you worried about the back?
No, I'll take him. I thought that he had gone down a little bit, though. Like, if you're looking at the last couple of weeks, he's like in the 80s. I thought, wasn't he more in the 50s and 60s before the injury alert?
Perhaps I'm wrong then. Oh, you know what? Okay.
I might.
Rudy Gamble took him 50 in TARF, which is what you're saying, and he is 87. So he has gone down, just not in my drafts. Okay. I just didn't experience the dip because Rudy in another draft, I think you took him in labor as well. Yeah. So maybe that's what it is I'm using my 2 experiences there with Rudy Gamble staying fully bought in on him. So I didn't clearly see the dip. So you're right on that. Go ahead with your Joe Ryan take then. He did go down a little bit. Does that make you more interested in him than Joe with the dip?
Yeah. I was already interested in Joe Ryan. Now, I don't like to see a back. I don't like to see any injuries this time of year. It happened right during the middle of the Earth League drafts. And funnily enough, Dave McDonald took Joe Ryan right after there was an injury news alert. So take that what you will with it. But Dave is usually pretty good with the injury stuff. It didn't scare him off of Joe Ryan. Mm-hmm. And I'm not terribly scared either. I mean, what I don't like about Joe Ryan is just the amount of home runs and hard contact that he gives up. But every year you're getting especially the last 2 seasons, you're getting very consistent ERA numbers. You're getting good strikeout to walk numbers, which is what, of all the stats I look at, strikeout minus walk rate is probably the one I put the most weight into in the last 3 years. 24.3, 23, 22.5. Great strikeouts with elite command. The team context is dog shit, and 13 wins is probably going to be very hard to come across again, but he gives you the volume with the strikeouts. And it's kind of like that Logan Gilbert thing. You'd expect maybe a little bit of a better ERA ceiling considering the talent level. Like the best ERA he's had was last year at 3.42.
That's the homers, though. That's the homers. That's perfectly the homers. Why Joe Ryan's never put up an ERA better than 3.42, which was last year's, is because the homers always push that floor up a little bit. And Justin, I want to bring you in on that with the homers. As he gets older, now going into his age 30 season, when do we get into the zone of wanting to be too early versus too late with Joe Ryan for fear that when he starts to fall, another 2023 is coming when he had a 4.51 ERA and a 1.17 whip. But then what if a few more hits skitter through and all of a sudden it's a 1.24 whip with the mid-4s ERA? Are you worried about that? We saw it with Ober. Now, he had less margin for error because he throws much softer, and he had the hip issue. Yeah. But as Joe Ryan gets older, how do you balance the concern of those ever-present homers with the fact that he will eventually degrade in skill? And I think he'll have a hard decline as opposed to a soft one.
I don't worry about that yet. I don't think we're quite there yet.
So then, just to interrupt you real quick, 2023 was an anomaly for you then, the 4.51
I think so.
Okay, go ahead.
I think so, for sure. I just think he's one of these guys who just knows how to pitch, right?
I agree.
And he does give up too many home runs, but I'm not overly worried about that. I think the bigger issue for me is the team context that Joe was talking about.
So bad.
It's such a bad. This is going to be.
Who's in the bullpen? Rick Aguilera, Jeff Reardon,
Taylor Rogers, baby. No, I don't. Yeah.
God, I'm so old. Joe didn't even blink when I said those names.
Yeah, no.
I hate you both. Sorry.
Yeah,
Taylor Rogers coming back, he had to close, and then
if you
Cole
said
Sands
Boof Bosner and
that's like 20 years after the guys I named, though.
And Glenn Perkins and
G Perk was so good, dude. G Perk was awesome. I loved Glenn Perkins. I think he does
remember when that was going to be the big three of Liriano, Boof Bosner, and Glenn Perkins?
Yep, they were supposed to be 3 great starters. Liriano did pan out, but then Bonzer was like a swingman and then full-on reliever for who's
Tampa Bay, right?
Yeah.
And Glenn Perkins was
Perkins. Sorry, no, Perkins stayed with them, and then
No,
was a
Bosner
dominant
went.
lefty.
Yeah.
Bosner I think moved a bunch. I mean,
Tampa,
his name was Boof. I think every team should have gotten a chance to
It
get
was
him.
great though. He was,
Right? Like his name was Boof. You got to make a guy like that travel to all 30 teams just so that anyone could get a jersey with Boof Bonzer on it. But anyway, Joe Ryan, I think we're done here. Let's go to Nick Pivetta, who I was a late convert last year. I was like, you guys are crazy, loving on this guy. And it's been a while since I've referenced Greg Martin, who we're going to have on the show at some point this month. But he was one of the ones who pushed me over the edge and says, hey, you're going against one of your own tenants here, which is I always preach about being careful with the guys who have a superficially mediocre or bad ERA, but a good whip. And that was Pivetta for 23 and 24. He had a 4.09 ERA, but a 1.12 whip. And when you have that sort of discrepancy, that suggests that you can get that ERA down quite a bit when you're allowing that few base runners. It was clearly the homers for him, though. And I'm like, is he ever going to fix these? And it's like, well, let's take a shot on the Marine layer. That's basically what it came down to. San Diego, good team. They got a little bit of a pitcher's park. Get the homers down a little bit and see where it goes. Well, it went far. He got it down to 1.1 from his career 1.5, and he put up a career season. Nick Pivetta did 2.87 ERA, 0.99 WHIP. He was unbelievable, Justin. What does he do for an encore? Are you staying bought in at the premium, or is this one where you fade after the big year because you're worried about the homers coming back? I should mention 10% homer to fly ball, 5 points better than his career mark of 15 for Pivetta.
I'm sorry, Hale.
Oh my God, yes.
Active Twins reliever, Congressman.
Honestly, we could just do the whole thing from Twins.
I was just talking to somebody about having them on, and that we were definitely going to do reliever, Congressman. But
am I allowed to say who, or were you not saying who on purpose?
Oh no, we can say who.
I imagine Bogman and Welsh.
Yeah,
huh?
it's Bogman. Okay. It's gonna be Bogman and Welsh.
Yeah.
For sure. It'll be so much fun. And this is such a good year for it too, because there's many teams that are
so many teams where you can use their whole bullpen. With Minnesota being a good call. Hale.
Really good call. So I'm not buying at this price. I think
on
there
Pivetta.
will.
Sorry, just to reset.
I think there will be regression on Pivetta. Now, I don't think he's going to go back to being the guy he's been in the past, which is a career 146 homer per nine.
I hope not, dude.
Right, but I do think that like going back to like a 130 homer per nine is probably, he was really lucky. The home run to fly ball rate was under 10%. And for reference, he's 14.5% for his career, and it really been 15 to 16% the previous few years before going to San Diego. I do think San Diego helps him in that regard, but not as much as it was last year. I think he got really lucky. He also stayed healthy, which is something he doesn't do super often. I mean, it was pretty much a career high in innings. He actually didn't get hurt in
23-24. That was due to ineffectiveness. I made the same mistake.
That's true. Yeah,
thinking that he bounced back from injury,
especially 23 because they put him into the bullpen.
He was early, he was swingman in 23, and then in 24 he didn't get hurt. He just didn't pitch well enough to get enough innings to push over 150.
So I mean, I think you get strikeouts. I think he will return you a pretty solid whip.
Is your projection for an over 4 ERA? Do you have that handy?
Give me a minute and I'll look it up.
No problem. So yeah, I mean, the skills are still there. 19% strikeout minus walk. Like, that is bankable. He is a stud with the strikeouts and walks. It's a matter of if you can take on a little bit of a higher ERA
I have
for the whip.
3.91 ERA, a 109 whip.
And a 109 whip, you said?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the whip is amazing. That would absolutely be incredible. Joe, let's bring you in.
I don't mind people drafting him. Like, I don't think this is like a real bust situation, but like, I think he's going to go higher than I'm willing to take him.
I think that's totally fair. ADP of 95 makes him the, let me go back to my other sheet here, the 28th starter off the board. Joe, on Pivetta, Justin's a little bit more tepid, not out, just like I think maybe you can get Justin to pay the max at 115 for his pick, but he's not paying the ADP around 95 and nor the min at 75. Where do you come out? Is Pivetta someone you're seeking, avoiding, or you'll take him if the price is right?
I really liked him a couple years ago, but I think the price is a little bit much for me at this point. He's kind of in a little bit of his own group here. Like, I'm looking. We might have different dates set, but I'm looking over the last 2 weeks since February 19th, and him being kind of on his own. Like the previous pitcher before him is Nolan McLean, who's like 10 picks earlier. And then he's 5 picks ahead of Chase Burns, but then there's not another pitcher until Strider, like 50 and 20 picks later. So he's kind of going in his own little tier here. I guess you could
McLean
throw
ahead
Chase
of
Burns in
Pivetta
there.
is insane.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I'll do.
Yes, it is.
I'll do it all day long.
All right, we'll talk about him coming up. So hold your horses a moment. But yes, it is.
The whole thing with like Bloomfield, I read a Bloomfield article like a month or two ago, just
love Bloomer.
Reinforcing in people to look back over the previous couple of years and not just the most recent year. And Nick Pivetta might be one of the poster boys for that. If you're just looking at 2025, he looks like an ace. Look back over the last few years, there are ace-like things there with the strikeout minus walk rate, but the actual results are probably going to be a little bit up and down. The ballpark is good, sure, but I just don't know that we can expect another sub-3 ERA after 10 years of a 4+ ERA. I think you can probably expect the projections to be pretty in line with reality here, like a high 3s, low 4s type of ERA. The whip should probably be pretty decent after what we've seen the last couple of years, but if you're getting a 3.9 ERA and a 120 whip inside the top 100 as your SP2 probably, it just doesn't really excite me enough. I would much rather just pay up around earlier and get a Ryan, get a Eury, get a Cease, get a Bradish, get any one of those guys really, even though I'm kind of worried about Bradish a little bit. I'd rather just pay another round, considering I think the talent level is on a completely different level here with Pivetta and the guys going right in front of him.
The only name that stuck out to me there that you said that I'm like, why? What's the difference is Ryan. Because they do the same thing, right? They have a home run issue. Now, he's had better ERAs, but I don't know that I could get them too far apart in a projection. I don't want to hammer you on that too much.
That's
I'm just saying I think they're more or less the same.
I have a Joe Ryan bias. I don't know if it's the Joe thing. I've just loved him for several years.
He's awesome. And, like, the way he works with that fastball, too, it's not even overpowering velocity-wise, but it is overpowering in the way he throws it. It is something to behold. So I understand some of the concerns on Pivetta. I don't quite share them one-to-one, but I wish I could figure out, and I don't even know if it's possible, if there's any stats to look at to know if you can tangibly change your homer to fly ball, right? Because like 10% is well below his career, but it's more in line with like league averages. And if he did do something real that can make us believe in that for Pivetta, then I would be all in. But I just don't know, and I have to lean on his career marks of 15% homer to fly ball and 1.5 homer 9, which is why I'm not aggressively drafting him. I'm a little bit more in than you guys, but all three of us are just being a little bit cautious with Pivetta.
I think for me, like, I just feel more confident that if one of these guys is going to throw like a 3.50 ERA, it's Joe Ryan.
Yes.
You know, like I just think that
just because he's done it.
Yeah.
But Pivetta,
yeah, I can't put my finger on it either, but I'm kind of.
But Joe Ryan has consistently done it. Like he's got that one bad year, but 3 out of the last 4 years he's had pretty much a 3.50 ERA. Like I think consistently Joe Ryan is going to.
And you don't think he's been lucky to do that? On some level,
maybe a little. He just doesn't
honestly,
walk guys.
Honestly, you could say no because his FIP matches his ERA, and his Sierra is actually better. So maybe he isn't lucky doing that.
I do want to say though that like the underlying like pitching indicators on a guy like Joe Ryan is always going to be deceptive. So like
for sure,
like you know, think about Kyle Hendrickses of the world. I'm trying to think of the other guy, the Bailey Obers of the world. Like they're like FIP or Sierra never matched up, right?
Well, it's usually the XFIP that's supposed to work because that will neutralize the home runs for them. But even that's good.
You can't neutralize the home run for Joe Ryan because he will give up those home runs, right? Like
right. So like even if you want those included, though, I think that would just be normal. FIP would take the homer to fly ball rates that he has and include those, and he still does well.
Yeah.
So I'm backing you in this case and saying that the ERA indicators even say that Joe Ryan isn't just.
And I will say that like part of my Pivetta fear is about past trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for those of you who've been listening for like 8 years or whatever, however long that I've been doing this with Paul. Paul and I were huge fans of Nick Pivetta.
In Philly, we loved him.
And he just kept he was the Charlie Brown of this show, right? Like we kept trying to kick that football with Nick Pivetta and we'd fall on our ass. And so
that's why I had quit. That's why I had quit and I was out.
But I think Greg was right last year. Mm-hmm. And I'd be interested to have that conversation with Greg again on Pivetta. because I think he was right last year to buy in because the price was so cheap. He was going like
right.
180.
He was in the 200s, yeah. 200s into the 180s there. So it was definitely buyable. Now when you move it up 100 picks, it's a different calculus. So I hear y'all's trepidation.
It's the moving up 100 picks that I really have a problem with.
And if I can be totally honest, like I'm advocating for guys that I do like here, and I have some shares, but for the most part, I just don't draft pitchers in this area. This is just not my pitcher area. So Ryan versus Pivetta, I'll gladly discuss, but I'm not usually getting either. Let's end this tier with Kevin Gausman. Back to Toronto for our boy Joe. I've been loving Gausman forever. I don't love him anymore. Not in a fantasy landscape. He's one of these guys I root for because I do still kind of have that Baltimore love for him because I was a big fan of his. I tried to make him a thing forever, and then he finally broke out with the Giants, and he's been pretty damn good ever since. And he was pretty good last year. I'm not even sure he's getting enough credit for as good as Kevin Gausman was last year. And yet, I don't have the warm and fuzzies about him, Joe. It's kind of maybe the same way you are about Pivetta. You're like, well, this was a great year last year. I see this, but I have some concerns. Maybe it's just the age. Maybe it's the BABIPs that he's had with Toronto, although he's gotten him down the last 2 years. I don't know. Why do I not love Kevin Gausman? Should I? Is he underrated?
I think he might have become a little bit underrated as the guy who's going to go out there every year. And I mentioned it with Cease. The Jays target guys who are going to make 30-plus starts for you. It's like their entire rotation. A couple of years ago, they only had like 6 starters the entire year, which were 7 starters, which is just unheard of. So you're getting the volume from him. You're getting, barring an injury, sure, you're getting 180 innings from him. He's not going to run up the strikeouts like he used to into the 30s, but you're still getting probably a mid-20 strikeout rate, around 24, 25%, I'd expect. The thing with Gausman, and this was the conversation I'd have with Nick pretty much every year at FPAS, was about the reliance on the splitter. You live and die by the splitter. It could lead to good seasons, bad seasons. Nobody really knows what's coming. But the thing with him last year, his fastball value was the best that it had ever been in his career. So, and it's not like directly tied to stuff, but the run value of his fastball was the best of his career. So having a second pitch that is excellent in his fastball to pair with the splitter, and again, I'm getting a little bit over my head. This is not my expertise in the whole pitching realm in that regard of breaking down pitch by pitch, but still having that fastball be much better than it had been previously to pair with one of the best splitters in baseball, I think can keep him successful into his mid to late 30s. And being 35, I think there'll be some people who worry a little bit about the volume, about the performance, but he is so steady. Every single year, he gives you exactly pretty much what you're hoping for. And I think if you're looking for 180 innings of a 3.75 ERA and a 1.15 whip, I think you're probably going to get that from Gausman. And he's priced, I think, really, really well this year amongst a lot of guys. Amongst a lot of guys who have a lot of questions in there. He's going right beside Emmet Sheehan and Zach Wheeler, and I love both of them, but they do have their questions. Right behind him is Misiorowski, Lodolo, Brandon Woodruff. He feels like the safest arm in this tier. If you're drafting for safety and for floor, I think that Gausman should be your guy.
This shit hurts. This splitter grip freaking hurts, dude.
Yeah, it's no fun.
And obviously his fingers are more pliable, and he's been throwing it a bunch, but just jamming it in there freaking hurts. I mean, he's not stronger than me, but no. I'm just
yeah, sure.
I know children who are stronger than me. Kevin Gausman, someone you're drafting. Justin, quick thoughts on him before we go to our next tier, because Joe said it all right.
In the right build, right? Like I could definitely, like, honestly, like in the kind of build I have right now in TGFBI where Gausman's already gone, but like I could have rationalized the Gausman pick in like the 6th, 7th round. Because I have DeGrom and Yamamoto. So like if I felt a little unsure about like how much volume I'm going to get from those guys,
right,
maybe I would take a Gausman type. But if I have pretty safe volume up top, I'm probably not. I'm probably going to shoot for more upside. I do also want to just point out, like, and you guys did mention, he's old, right? And old pitchers get hurt more.
Once you get in your mid-30s, you can like, just go. That's just steady.
Yeah, you could just like lose all your talent in a heartbeat, right? I don't think that's going to happen with Gausman necessarily, but I think there is. The problem is, like, when I want these kind of quote unquote safe pitchers, right? I want guys who have pretty safe floors, and there is a floor on Gausman that goes, well, he's just done at some point,
right? At 35, like, Again, there's nothing in the date. When I say what I just said there about Jeff's study, it's that he found with the injury studies that he's done that once you're in your mid-30s, there isn't necessarily a stair-step decline. Like, he had this little knick-knack injury, and then it led to this. It can just be one big injury, and you're cooked because your body can't recover enough because you're 35. So that is like
we saw with teammate Max Scherzer, right? Where like all of a sudden,
he's back, by the way, with them.
Yeah, I know. I'm super excited to watch him pitch. Like, I just like. I when Max Scherzer retires, there will be a part of me that sheds a tear with two different colored eyes.
He's so cool. He's just so damn cool. And we will talk about him on episode 14 of the SP preview.
We're going to talk about him in May.
Next tier here now. I'm going to try to keep you guys on the guardrails here. Comment or two a piece back and forth.
Good luck.
Juice worth the squeeze. This is a very difficult tier to kind of navigate because ain't a damn one of them done shit yet in terms of like a full unquestioned top tier season. I think the closest is Pepio and Lodolo's season last year.
This is where we start to yell at each other.
And then you get a bunch of youngsters that it's like,
I know you want to rein us in, but there's no way you're going to rein me in on Nolan McLean. I believe in this talent so much. I know he's the top of this tier, so I'm not even letting you introduce it.
I cannot wait to obliterate you on the inconsistencies of avoiding risk and then taking a guy with 30 fucking innings under his belt. But anyway, it's Chase Burns, Nolan McLean, Jacob Misiorowski, Emmet Sheehan, Nick Lodolo, Ryan Pepio, and Cam Schlittler. We'll start with Burns. He's
not at the top of the list. I apologize for jumping the gun. I'm just too excited.
And I'll get you your time on Mr. McLean. Let's start with Burnsy, who, again, the easy, lazy, simple comps is Hunter Green 2.0, right? Like, it's just too easy to do that. They throw
I don't think it's lazy.
Yeah, I know lazy. I shouldn't even say, but like it's obvious is what I'm trying to say. They throw 100 with a nasty slider, and that's it. And that's kind of the problem, right, Justin? Is that like what else are we going to get here? And I need more. I bought in on Green, right? When we talked about him, I said, hey, I opened up from last year. I'm more open to it, even with the MRI that he got. I can see the vision because he had a nice year last year. But with Burns, we're a couple years in arrears on the Green cycle, and so I don't really want in right now. Am I wrong? Should I be in on Chase Burns?
No, because he had elbow issues last year, and we just saw what happens with guys who have, elbow issues. Like, I know everybody's like, oh, well, the MRI came back clean on Hunter Green.
On Green, yeah.
I'm not touching him. He's getting zeroed out in my projection. Well, maybe not
That's
zeroed
insane.
out, but I'm not. He's off my board. Like, I'm just not going to draft Hunter Green this year. I'm also not going to draft Chase Burns this year. If he pops, I will. You know what? I'll eat crow. I got no problem. I don't trust a guy who throws as violently and as hard as he does, having had elbow issues last year. This is like, honestly, it's the Brian Wu conversation, right? And I was wrong on Wu, and that's why I bring him up, right? Because there is a world in which I'm wrong. I'll be okay if I'm wrong. I'm totally,
Yeah. And that's kind of how I was with Green last year, too. It's like, he might break out. I didn't think I even said that in my bold predictions. I hope I'm wrong. I like watching Hunter Green pitch and be awesome. I want Chase Burns to dominate.
I do love that my bold predictions article came out right before the news, so people can't yell at me for
saying, like, oh, you just did that because you got nicked.
Yeah, I said Nick Lodolo is the number one starting pitcher in fantasy on the Reds, and it's mostly because... I don't think that Burns or Green are going to stay healthy. I just don't buy it. And not to mention, like, yes, the stuff is amazing. The command and control are not on Chase Burns. Like, we
saw that during his debut last year. 43 innings. It was very uneven. He had a 9% walk rate, but we saw bouts of trouble. The talent is rich.
Like,
that's another thing too.
Yeah.
Now he's not where he differentiates from Green is he is not the home run machine that Green has been. Yeah. So that does help, but it doesn't help enough to get me on board here. Joe, with Burns, do you share Justin and I's trepidation, or is he somebody you jump in on?
I've taken him once in 10 drafts. Just kind of
was it
FOMO
at SP20, or did you get him cheaper than that?
Oh man, this was like November. I think.
Okay. Don't worry about it then.
I think it was like 140 to 150. Like, he has moved up.
So it was cheaper. Yeah.
It was a little bit cheaper. Can't say that I love him. Like, I think I agree with all of the concerns you guys have, and just seeing his ADP inside the top 100 over the last 30 OC is a little bit concerning for me. Like, I think you guys laid it out pretty perfectly. Pitching in Great American Ballpark with an unproven track record, considering that he had a flexor strain at the end of the season. Now, I've heard some people say It's bullshit. They only said that he was hurt so that they could take him out of the rotation or something. I don't know how it's been rationalized. I don't think it's bullshit. Even though he was pitching again fairly soon after, it was in a relief role, 1 inning here, 2/3 of an inning there, 2 innings here. So I don't know that I fully trust the health. I don't know that I fully trust that he has arrived as a major league starting pitcher yet at this point. And you say he doesn't have home run problems. He doesn't have home run problems yet pitching in Cincinnati. Who knows what's going to come? And I'm joking a little bit. But in that ballpark, who the hell knows what's going to come? He was just over 1 homer per 9 last year in 43 total innings. And the projections have him at like 1.2. So, I mean, ATC, the bat has him 1.27 homer 9.
I don't listen to any of the projections on home run. They don't make any sense. Every year, Justin and I talk about this, where they come up with like, it's specifically the homer per 9 and BABIPs that I've seen, where they just like pull something out of the air. So I don't know. Like, he didn't allow anything like that in the minors. He had 0.68 in the minors last year for a home run per 9 for Chase Burns, and then 1.0 in the majors. Where are we getting 1-2?
I think it's from the launch angle he allowed last year was 15 degrees, 42 ground ball with a 46 hard hit and a 10% barrel. So maybe they're extrapolating
a lot out of 43 innings.
Yeah, that's totally fair. That's totally fair. And I'm not saying he's going to be a home run guy. I'm just saying in Cincinnati, everybody could be a home run guy.
For sure.
And without the proven track record, with the price moving up inside of the top 100 picks, that's bananas. I'm going to try and find where I took him in that first draft I did, or not the first draft, but the earlier draft. But it was like 150.
He's SP 26, by the way. I think I said 20.
I also want to talk about real quick with Burns in terms of the projections, right? The projections on a guy like Burns are guessing. Like and obviously a projection is always guessing, but like he has such little data in the minor leagues, much less the major leagues, that they have no idea what to make of him, right? Like, so I wouldn't go crazy over projections one way or another,
right?
On a guy who only spent 1 year total in professional baseball, right? Like he only has 2025 to the ledger. The projections pull off of those numbers way too harshly. So I would be very careful with those projections. Just generally speaking, for guys like Chase Burns, who kind of go through the minor leagues really, really fast.
I'd be careful.
130. I got him to pick 130.
So you got him a lot cheaper, and he ain't that cheap now.
Well, and that's part of the problem with Chase Burns, right? Because like I understand the hype on him, but the hype has gotten out of control. When we're talking about him going 20, 30 picks higher than literally the same kind of guy in Jacob Misiorowski, why would you take Chase Burns? Like, I don't, with the elbow issues, right? Like,
I think his command profile looked a lot better in their major league samples. He had a 106 location plus. So I think you could differentiate between the two and have more belief in Burns. A 104 for Miz, pardon me, higher than I thought. But I think that is the differentiation being made is that he has a better command profile. I don't know that I agree with it, but I think one of the things that we're not talking about with either guy is the upside either. We talk a lot about their downside.
Their upside's huge.
And their upside is massive.
In an 8 or a 10 team league, I take that gamble, maybe not at the price necessarily, but maybe because if he does hit, it could be amazing, and you can find amazingness on your wire, right?
Exactly. And I think
but
you are right to ask.
Deeper, I'm just not.
I think you are right to ask like why they're split.
That's my question.
By that much though, too, right? Same division, same.
One's on a better team and a better park.
Better park, but I think the teams are close. I like the Reds. Milwaukee was great last year, so they get an edge there.
Milwaukee always is great for some reason. We look at their team on paper. They got an organization. They look at their team on paper and we go, "Oh, this is the year Milwaukee falls off."
They got an org, man. Since you already brought him up, let's go to Miz, and then I'll get you to McLean. But since you already brought him up, and he's the same guy anyway, Joe, what do you think about that with regards to what Justin's saying about like why are they 122 and 99? Oh, it's called 100 and 120. Why are they 20 picks apart, Joe? Miz and Chase Burns.
I don't have an answer for you.
Is there any discernible reason for them to be even one pick apart? I'm fully on board with Justin now. They should be the exact same price point.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure it out and seeing if I've missed anything, and I don't think that I have. Misiorowski threw more innings in the majors last year. He's not coming off of an elbow problem.
He throws
the hard hit and barrel rates were better that he allowed last year. I'm trying to figure it out. And I can't.
Minor league track record. I mean,
I don't get it.
Miz has walked double digits everywhere always. He's never even flirted with good control, but still, I don't really get the 20 picks difference between them. Does the 20 pick discount put you on Miz at all, Joe? Or are you off both? You just off both?
Really? Like, I took that early share of Burns more as like I want to have one share of Burns,
right?
But I can't say that they're targets for when I'm doing my OCs, and I got the Beat Joe OC coming up in a couple of weeks. There's no chance that Misiorowski or Burns are on those teams unless they fall. And Burns is not falling. Burns is rising. Misiorowski, if he's in like the 130s, 140s, I can understand it. The walk rate thing doesn't bother me so much when you're striking out as many guys as he does, but it could still lead to that inflated whip. I think sometimes, this is kind of a side note, we'll get a little bit bogged down in like 9% versus 11% when it's like 2 walks over 100 batters and we make a big deal of it. It is something to pay attention to.
It's more than that, right? Or 2 walks over 100. Sorry. I thought you were saying 2 walks over 100 innings.
Over 100 batters, right?
But 11% is a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
I think each percentage. I think it's like what's the category you always talk about, Justin? That 1 percentage point is a big deal.
Zone percentage.
I think walk rates like that too. I get the point you're trying to make, Joe. Like, don't lose your mind over it. But there is a substantial difference to somebody who had an 11% in the majors, like Miz did, and has never been below 12% in the minors. He didn't have a single stop, not even for 2 innings somewhere, below 12%. Versus Burns, who was at 9% last year and then had 5% in the minors at least.
Is there any chance with Misiorowski, and I've heard it talked about with Burns too, but I don't think it's as likely with Burns, that Misiorowski doesn't start the year in the rotation? I've heard that talked about, that they're going to go Woodruff, Patrick, Henderson, Harrison.
Woodruff's not even going to be ready to start the year in the rotation.
That's changed.
Is that for sure?
It's not locked. It's now going. The news is now going the other way on that, Justin, because I always thought the same thing, okay. And now it's tracking toward avoiding the IL. That's tracking. You still got 3 weeks, but he's now tracking the other way. So then you're going Woodruff, Patrick, Henderson, Harrison. You could put Gasser in there. I still think there's room for Miz, and I don't really see the value in holding him. But they have enough arms. They could Sprout, who I didn't say as well. Like, they got arms. They could do it.
Logan Henderson.
But he threw $129 last year. Like, I just don't know that they have to do that with Miz.
Yeah, no, I don't expect it. I'm just saying, is there a world where he's not 100% guaranteed locked in as a starter? And potentially,
to start
if he has, like,
the year, I would be surprised. But
yeah,
they have enough arms to not rule it out. But I haven't seen any inkling to suggest that they're going to do that yet.
Am I crazy, Justin?
He just beat the British national team. Not many people have beaten Britain in a war. And so, like, I'm betting on Misiorowski. Like,
by the way, did you see in that game that they let DL Hall pitch for Britain? He's not on their team.
Yeah,
the Brewers just said, "Let's get some innings. You can pitch for them," and he pitched against his own team.
I think Puerto Rico.
Speaking
got
of,
someone from the
hat.
Yeah, someone got someone from the Rockies or something while they were playing the Rockies.
Yeah, I like that.
They didn't have enough players, and so they're just like, "Hey, take this guy."
I mean, guys come back in, right? Like, you can leave the game and come back in to pitch. Like, I don't worry about the sanctity of the game. So I liked that DL Hall pitched against his own team.
I like this take here, right here.
Ooh,
says I'm off of both Miz and Burns, and I'd rather have Zebby much later. That's what
much later. That's a good call.
I'm not drafting either of these guys really. I definitely would think about Miz at his price just because he is going lower than I think a lot of these other guys that we're going to talk about are going.
Well, let's get to your guy then.
Yeah,
pick 87, Nolan McLean. Why are you fading those two, but you're so in on him?
Dude, watching him pitch last year, I just absolutely fell in love.
And you didn't fall in love with those two?
No, I didn't.
You must not have caught their good starts. My goodness.
I did catch their good starts. I also caught their bad starts. The stuff is really, really good on Nolan McLean. 117 stuff plus, including all of his pitches being either at 100, only one of them's at 100, and then the rest are well over 100, including
6 pitches, by the way.
Yeah, 6 pitches, like a full arsenal. He has shown the ability to throw innings. He threw 161 and 2/3 between the minors and the majors last year. He's on a good team in a good park. I think it's all systems go on Nolan McLean. I think he's going to end up being a guy that we're considering as an SP1 next year.
Ooh, no downside then.
I mean, there's always downside, but I don't see much of it. He does a really, really good job of locating his pitches within the zone. He doesn't walk too many guys. Now he has had minor walk problems in the minor leagues at times.
Mm-hmm.
So there could, maybe they do creep back up again. Something I'm definitely watching this spring. I don't know if you saw his first spring start, but looked great. I'm just a believer in Nolan McLean, and I don't care what you guys say here. I buy it. I've already drafted him multiple times. I'm bummed I didn't get him in TGFBI, but I will continue to just be an absolute
48 major leagues.
I absolutely am. And if you want to call me a hypocrite for it, I absolutely understand.
I call you a hypocrite for a lot of different things. It's fine.
But so, I completely buy everything about Nolan McLean.
Before I get to you, Joe, when you read Jeff Zimmerman's bold predictions, Justin, how did you feel about his concerns?
I honestly,
McLean's
literally,
whip?
as we were, I was just bringing him up. I haven't read the article yet. So what did he say?
His concern is about high walk, high ground ball guys. And he said, of the pitchers being drafted in the top 150, Nolan McLean will be the biggest whip drag. Like, he is gravely concerned. Now, it's a bold prediction, right? So this is 5 percentile, top percentile outcome here. But with his control, or lack thereof, and 61% ground ball rate, he is concerned that the hits can start getting, because a 275 BABIP, ground ball guys can have trouble with BABIP, and how good is that defense over in New York? Like, we like Lindor, Semien up the middle, but Lindor's nicked up right now, and Semien is old, so it's not like a guarantee.
Yeah, Bichette's not a great defender,
right? You got a new guy over at first. I don't know how many games Polanco has there.
Like 4.
That's his concern, is that the whip is going to go sky high. How does that hit your ear when he talks about, because he brings up the minor league ones that you talked about where he had the walk issues, and then paired with the ground balls, meaning a lot of hits that could get through. That's where his concern comes for the whip.
I can totally understand that, and maybe I need to consider that a little bit more. Like I said, I love the dude. I really don't want to believe. Maybe it is. I'm wish casting a little bit here.
You are on.
I'm on the train.
You're on the train, but it's a full train is what I'm trying to say, right? This ADP is not up here because you're out on an island. And I say that to say, like, you're amongst good company here, being really in on this guy. There's a lot of very, very smart baseball people who know pitching that are obsessed with Nolan McLean. Like, I get that part, because I even put in my write-up of him, I was like, he's going super high. And even though I'm not in, I see the vision. And I like using that phrase a lot when it's like, hey, I see what you're going for. I might not be right there with you, but I'm not like numb to the idea of what you're even seeing, Justin. Like, I get it. He's just not the one I necessarily want to gamble on. But I'm not Mr. Risk-Free. I'll take somebody who's got less proven track record, or, coming off an injury, or whatever risk factor you can say. So it's not like I'm being too prissy about that with regards to McLean. I just was surprised when we got to Arizona and we saw his ADP was in the top 25.
I was a little bit surprised too on how high he was going, but I was also here for it. This is a year.
That was 40 picks more expensive than he was in Arizona.
Yep. Yeah. SP23, Joe, with Nolan McLean. Again, sub 50 innings, but so much to like, as Justin highlighted. 6 pitch mix, of which he can, have really unique mixes against both righties and lefties. Premium velocity, premium stuff, premium swing and miss. Everything is there. Are you buying in on Nolan McLean?
I like the talent. Like, I love the talent. Like, 6 pitches that you throw at least 10% of the time that are all plus pitches from stuff perspective is pretty much unheard of. You never, like, 2 pitches usually, sometimes 3 that are plus 6 at his age. And also, I'm not sure if you guys mentioned this, his first year as like a full-time pitcher, because he was kind of doing the back and forth.
He was a two-way at Oklahoma State, yeah. Or was it Oregon State? It was a black and orange. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm not good Oklahoma with the colleges. State. But now that he gets to focus more just on the pitching side of things, you could argue now his focus is solely on improving as a pitcher. He might even get better. It's just the price for me. The price is fucking crazy. Let's call it what it is. The price is insane. At 87 or 85, whatever his ADP is, it's in the same range as Eury, Framber, Joe Ryan. Like, these guys are pretty established. Maybe Eury's not established, but I think we all kind of agree Eury is going to be a star at some point. Mm-hmm. To go in that same range as these guys who are SP1 caliber pitchers, a lot of them, Eury, Cease, Bradish, they could easily be SP1s. I think that McLean could pop that season. but the price is getting prohibitive for me. I mean, it already pretty much is. I think
price
it's too expensive.
Is so emblematic of 2020's fantasy baseball. Even really like 2010s is when it started. When, you just don't get to wait around for a 2-3 season track record to really bet on for an ace. If you want somebody, they're showing the talent. We have all these pitch models, all these great visualizations to see how good their stuff is, to really have an understanding of what they are able to offer outside of just, they throw these pitches. No, here's how they throw them. Here's how they approach lefties. Here's how they approach righties. You can be really confident in your decision, even off of 48 innings. So even though I'm not right there with Justin drafting him, again, I see the vision.
You know what's interesting, though, too, is that, and Rob Silver made this point to me yesterday on the show that we were talking, rookies in the NFBC world on the hitter side are not really as expensive as you might expect, considering some of the upside of the McGonagalls, the Sal Stewarts, the
Connor's really the only one that's getting silly.
They're all reasonably priced, these rookies on the hitting side. And then on the pitching side, they're not really. And it's mostly, I'm using McLean to make that point, but I think people are more inclined to push up the pitchers than they are the hitters these days.
I think pitching can leap faster, right? I think if you see the stuff and you see the goodness, like it can just click immediately, where it seems like hitters generally have to have some sort of stair step into greatness. They rarely just hit the ground. You can name some examples. I'm sure people are screaming Juan Soto and Julio Rodriguez and a handful of others or whatever. But that is more rare. That is more rare than the pitching. So I think you're right on that. Justin, the reason I'm not taking McLean, though, is because I'm taking the next guy. I'd rather just go save myself a few nickels, because you got McLean at pick 87, and I can get Emmet Sheehan at 118. So I ask you, Joe, first, the title of this tier, remember, is the juice worth the squeeze? And is the juice worth sick talking ability, Paul?
Wow.
Is the juice worth the squeeze?
Podcast of the year
on Emmet Sheehan. I hate you so much.
I'm fucking with you. I love you, Paul. I love Emmet Sheehan even more, though, potentially. I just drafted him this morning in TGFBI. I'm all over him, and I think there's a world where all of these Dodger pitchers are going to be super babied for all the reasons we've talked about for the last several months. And even going back to last year, the Dodgers don't really have much of a reason to play for 5 months of the season. They know they're going to be good. They want their guys healthy in October. And the guys that have more of the injury risk could be the guys that don't end up pitching as much during the regular season. They're pitching more 5 innings, they're skipping starts, whatever. There's no reason to do any of that with Emmet Sheehan at 26 years old. Glass now, with all his stuff, you can barely get 100 innings out of him, whether it's an injury or they want to keep him healthy. Glass now is not going to throw more than like 120 innings or so. Ohtani is probably going to be baby to some extent. Blake Snell is already hurt. Who knows what's going to happen with the rest of the rotation here. But Emmet Sheehan feels like a guy where they will push him. They should be pushing him as a 26-year-old without the injury problems that a lot of the other guys have. There's a world where he's the safest arm in this rotation, especially cost considered. With what he did below the surface. And even on the surface, it was a 2.82 ERA, but all the supporting metrics are good. 23% strikeout minus walk rate, sub-1 whip. Like, there's nothing not to like here. The team context, the stuff, it's all really good with Emmet Sheehan. The only worry with me is the price shooting up. And the price, I think, will shoot up over the next few weeks, and he'll be... I got him in the 8th round in TGFBI, and for main events, Emmet Sheehan probably a 6th round pick.
Probably going to be inside the top 100. Yeah, I think so. He's 8th rounder right now at pick 118 over the last 10 OCs, and we'll see where that goes for Sheehan. Justin, who led the Dodgers in innings in 2024?
In 2024?
Yeah.
They're not 2025.
Not last year, 2 years ago. You can just take a guess. You're not going to know it, and I'm not roasting you for that. You shouldn't.
Gavin Stone.
Fuck you. You looked that up. I don't.
Did I get it?
I don't buy. Yes, I don't buy that at all. Cheating, absolute cheating. I don't buy it at all.
You know why?
At any rate,
you know why I knew it? It's because you said I wasn't going to guess it. So I was like, well, I got to guess someone.
Absurd. $140. He led the team. This has the same feel for me, where it's like not the guy that anybody's going to pick to lead the team in innings, and that he's going to be able to do that. Because you can't minimize everybody, and that 2024 showed that, right? Like. In a year where they were minimizing most of the guys, it was Stone at 140 and Glass now at 134, and then nobody else over 100. So if we see something similar this year and there's only a couple guys over 100, sure, Yamamoto could be the top guy and up there with him, but I think Sheehan is the other one to make a good bet on. 26 years old, I don't think they have to uber baby him. Stone, by the way, is nicked up. I think Justin Robleski's interesting behind him. They've always got a bevy of prospects, but I think Sheehan has real opportunity to get 30 plus starts, or 30, not 30 plus. I don't think they're going to run him 32, but like 28 to 30 this year and be really good. I'm fully in on Sheehan. We know you love McLean, Justin. What about Emmet Sheehan 30 picks later?
I like Sheehan, but I feel like you guys are talking about the insane ADP on Nolan McLean. I kind of think the hype is getting a little out of control on Sheehan. One, I don't know what the workload is going to be. I don't think the stuff is as good as other people do. He had walk issues as well at times in the minor leagues. He also had command problems.
Wait, are you talking about Nolan McLean or Emmet Sheehan?
No, I'm talking about Emmet Sheehan.
Okay, but you do realize every single one of these things applies to McLean, right?
Except for the stuff is not nearly as good, right?
Except for the stuff.
It's not
the
even
control
the same.
issues in the minors, the lack of, we don't know his volume. We don't know McLean's volume is going to be unencumbered. We think. I think that's a fair bet.
McLean,
but we don't know.
Like I said, McLean threw like 160 innings last year.
I understand. I'm not telling you he's going to throw 50, but I'm saying we don't know.
Oh, I mean, we don't know anybody.
No. I'm not trying to play the whole we don't really know anything. Are we even people? Fuck that. No. I'm being realistic though here, right? We're trying to make our best percentage guesses and everything. McLean, I'm.
You want to do a board bet on who throws more innings?
Not straight up, because I have to deal with a Dodger, right?
Okay, well, but that
acknowledge.
Yeah, of course, but that plays into what I'm talking about.
Right. What I'm saying. Okay, let me just back that up then. What do you have for McLean's innings? Let's just start there. What do you think he's going to get this year?
Now you've got to.
Sorry, I assume you always have your projections up. I'm sorry.
I have them up. You
probably have 80 million programs open like I do though too. So.
Yeah, I have literally 17 different tabs going right now. So, I currently have Nolan McLean for 173 innings. And I have Emmet Sheehan for 132.
Wow, that's a significant gap.
Yeah, so that's gap.
That is part of my issue with Sheehan. One, I just don't think he is as talented of a pitcher, right? I think McLean has a much deeper and a much better repertoire. Now, what I can say about Sheehan is he plays on the Dodgers, which means the win potential is through the roof. And if the Dodgers do just let him go because they have to, because they're babying other guys, I could see a world in which Sheehan gets to 150. Right, I don't think you're going to project him over 150.
No. That's about my max, and I'm more in the Gavin Stone 140s.
Let me ask Joe a question then, because Joe is all questioning the gap. Is the gap because you think I'm over projecting McLean's innings or under projecting Sheehan? Because I don't think I'm under projecting Sheehan. I think 132 is a really reasonable number for him on the Dodgers.
Too. But you asked Joe.
Is it the ones? What did I say on 173 on McLean that you got a problem with?
Joe?
I guess it's a little, I'm just thinking, I guess it's a little bit of both. I think I'd put them both closer to maybe the 150 range because the Mets have 6 healthy starting pitchers themselves.
They're going to run a 6-man with Amai.
Could they run a 6-man?
No, they're gonna. Isn't that already
with
set?
Amai? You mean Kodai?
Senga.
Sorry.
But I mean, half of those guys will be dead by May. Kodai, Senga.
God, I'm so racist, confusing Senga and Imai.
Yeah, that was terrible.
God damn it, dude. 2 orange uniformed teams with an Asian guy, and I'm like, they must be the same. What a piece of garbage.
Jesus. Thank God Ohtani plays in blue.
Help my brain fucking decipher it. Jesus. Anyway, no, but if they do run a 6, Justin, I think that's a fair pushback there from Joe. Can you go 178 on McLean if they run a consistent 6?
173.
Can he still get there?
I don't think they're going to go a consistent 6.
Okay, so you're going to bet against that because they've got Manaya, Senga. They got old guys who are going to break.
The Dodgers will do a consistent 6, and maybe I will bring McLean's projection down a little bit. Maybe I'll move it to 165 or something like that, cut off the start. But the Dodgers are going to run a 6 because they have Ohtani, right? It does not matter. They will throw Joe Orrico into the rotation to keep it in the rotation. Whereas the Mets, I don't know that they will. I think, if if Senga's arm falls off again, which is high in the realm of possibility, they may just go back down to a 5. And I think that McLean is always going to be in that rotation. So I'm pretty confident McLean is going to throw more innings than Emmet Sheehan, and I don't know that it's going to be particularly close. I would say, I would give you 25 innings.
Oh, I'll take that. Put that on the board. Yeah, I'll take I'll take the plus 25.
Okay.
Because you're not considering any downside for McLean, which is fine. You got your guy. I love that. I love being aggro about somebody. So this is not like roasting Justin or saying he's wrong. McLean's his guy. We all have our players, and we go to the mat for them. You said you were gonna, and you did not disappoint, good sir. You went to the mat for him. Psychotically, I might add, but I respect it. Nick Lodolo, while he's putting that on the board there, Joe, let's talk about Nick Lodolo, who came through last year. He did his thing, and I don't know that he got enough credit for it. I know it was still not a full season, which again has to be 162 innings when I use that term full season, because that means you qualify for the ERA title. But it was 157 with a 20% strikeout minus walk, 333 ERA, and 108 whip. He's also had some of the home run issues in Cincy, and they were present last year at 1-3, but he worked around it. Is Nick Lodolo poised to build upon this breakout season here?
I think he is. It's just kind of odd the way that the strikeouts aren't really there the way they were the first couple of years, and yet he's still been really, in fact, more successful without the strikeouts being there.
Right.
Kind of bizarre. The first couple of years, 29, 28%, albeit not over full seasons. And now he's at 24 and 24 the last 2 years, which have been the better seasons. I guess the first.
Still got the swing and miss, though, right? So, do you think he can get those Ks back? Because he's been at 24 the last 2 years, as you point out, with Lodolo, but with a 12% swinging strike, which, the shorthand is usually just to double the swinging strike, so he's right there. But you can go higher. 2 to 2.5 is the range usually. But do you think he just settles at this 24 then, because it's been working for Lodolo?
I think that he can be in that 24, anywhere in that range wouldn't surprise me. Maybe 29 would surprise me, but 23 to 27, nothing in there would really shock me.
That's his range.
I think that he is pretty reasonably priced. The guys he's going around, there's risk with all of them. I think you can comfortably say that Nick Lodolo is good, but there are also the risks that we talked about in Cincinnati with the home run issues in that ballpark. He's always kind of had some home run issues. Now, last year, 126 homer 9, 13% homer to fly ball. It's not the end of the world. It was 22 homers in 156 innings.
Anything over 1,
it's not amazing.
Starts to scare me. But he doesn't walk anybody, and that helps.
Yeah, the walk rates pretty much every year are getting better, below 5% last year. Now, do we buy that he's a sub 5% walk rate guy? I think that he can be in that 7, 8 type of range. Sub 5 would surprise me a little bit. So I think there's some potential whip regression here. I mean, the first 3 years, again, it's varying sample sizes, but 125, 175, 120, and then down to 108. I think we're probably looking at something closer to 1.2. I think the ERA is relatively safe, but again, with that ballpark, you never really know. And there's no projections other than Oopsie that have him going below a 4 ERA. So there are some risks with Lodolo, but I think overall he's fine as is he an okay 3? I prefer him as a 4. Maybe he's a fine 3. I'm not really excited about him, to be honest. I think he's fine, but he's not a guy that I'm going to be jumping up around to draft or anything like that.
Justin, you preached some pretty extreme caution about Cincinnati guys with good reason. We talked about it with Burns and Green. They also bring in the injury piece, but so does Lodolo, who did get hurt last year too, even though he did make a career high 157 innings. Is it the same sort of Cincinnati concerns that keep you off Lodolo? Or with him being a lower price than those two, maybe you start to get in where you at after his breakout year?
I'm not anti-Lodolo. I actually really like Lodolo from a straight skills perspective. To answer Joe's question, though, about why he is losing strikeouts in spite of the swing strike rate, it's because he has changed his approach against hitters. So he has if he was a qualified pitcher, he would have had the highest zone percentage of any pitcher in baseball. He is attacking the zone. He would have the 5th highest first pitch strike rate.
That walk rate.
He is attempting to get out of innings quickly, right?
I like that.
So with that comes some upside. I think if he stays healthy, he will be a volume monster in a way that we haven't seen in Cincinnati in a really long time. And this is because he will be able to get through the lineup 2 times lot quicker than most pitchers would be able to because he's attacking the zone so much. It also leaves up a lot of his actual projection in terms of his ERA and WHIP up to his defense a lot because he is going to get a lot of things hit into the field. That defense isn't bad behind him. So, like, I'm not overly worried about that, but I don't think that the home run rate is going to come down. I think it will stay there because you are pitching in Cincinnati and you are leaving it in the zone a whole lot. Because when I say that he would have had the highest zone percentage, the highest zone percentage in baseball last year was Tariq Skubal at 48%, 48.3%. And remember we said small changes in zone percentage means a lot.
Right.
So 48%, right? 53.6 was Nick Lodolo's. So he's not just living in the zone more than everybody else. He is living in the zone a hell of a lot more than anybody else. That is dangerous in Cincinnati. This has
the homers feeling, especially.
This has the feeling of a very, very low floor, but also a pretty interesting high ceiling.
Isn't this if like a good Minnesota pitcher was in Cincinnati basically then?
Yep, pretty much.
All right, well, take Joe Ryan's bad season and realize that that's on the table for Lodolo. Not that should be his projection, but that it's on the table.
That's the downside.
Yeah, the homers can take him up to the mid to high fours with Lodolo, but great command and control with the ability to miss bats and just being a good pitcher can give him a low threes
now,
again.
I also want to point out the fact he is not a great command and control pitcher, right? He is a 102 stuff plus and a 101 command plus. So there is a lot of risk here. Now, I think, like I said, there is some really good upside too, especially if he does decide, like, hey, I'm going to switch how I pitch, in certain aspects, right? We just don't have enough volume from him, consistently to go like, hey, how can he respawn?
He gets nicked.
Yeah, so I have not pulled the trigger on him. If you're a big Eno Saris fan, Eno really liked him in the Barf draft and was really upset when he got sniped on him. So, like, take that for what you will. I think there is a pretty risky profile for where he is going right now, though, in drafts. I'm not saying I'm taking him off my board. I'm just, in this tier, he is not my favorite.
Yeah, I don't have any Lodolo. I'm not sure I'm going to get any. Not from some outward dislike, just doesn't really fit me right now. All right, let's finish up with Cam Schlittler. I said 20 guys today, but I got to get going here shortly. So we're going to cut it at 15. We'll bring the next 5 in tomorrow when Justin and I talk some pitchers in the morning. And we're going to finish it off with Cam Schlittler, the Yankees stud. And again, we're talking about, is the juice worth the squeeze? Because he's also part of this group that has really elevated this year in terms of price. He's at pick 132, so still cheap amongst this group, cheapest amongst this group, I should say, but still expensive, right? Like 132, that's a real pick. He was awesome in his debut, but what are we getting for an encore? And maybe not even an encore, but his first full MLB season after 73 innings last year, Justin. Is there more for Cam? Do you worry about some regression with him? I don't think he's going to put up another 296 ERA with these skills, but is he 3.5, 120 whip? Is he better than that? Where are you at on Cam Schlittler?
I like Cam Schlittler a lot, and I understand that the ERA indicators say he's going to regress, and he is going to regress, right? Like, he's not going to put up a sub-3 ERA, but like, if you're okay with a guy who gives you a good amount of innings, he threw over 150 last year, or just under 150 last year, a third of an inning less than 150 between the majors and the minors last season, and can get you a boatload of strikeouts. We're talking, 26, 27% strikeout rate. He was 30% all throughout the minor leagues. The whip is going to be the issue. I don't know what the whip is going to be, and the home runs are going to be an issue. I know he didn't give up very many last year, but he is a right-hander pitching in Yankee Stadium, so I have a really hard time believing that he won't lose some to that short porch. That being said, like, I could see a mid-3s ERA with a boatload of strikeouts on a team that really needs starting pitching that stays healthy, and Schlittler, I don't think, has very many health concerns. So I'm a big fan. I know he's dealing with a back thing right now, but like I'm a pretty big fan of Schlittler, especially considering the prices of some other guys around this tier.
Yeah, he's cleared for his grapefruit debut. It's supposed to come soon if it didn't come today, because that news
tomorrow.
was yesterday. Okay, so it'll be tomorrow on the 6th. depending on when you're listening to this. So, Joe, when we're looking at Cam Schlittler, Justin laid out a lot of it here. Again, the cheapest of our group here, but not cheap by any stretch, is Cam Schlittler somebody you're ready to jump in on after 73 MLB innings last year?
So I worry about the injury stuff a little bit. And I read a couple of articles that were saying that, and I think I missed this at the time when it happened, but apparently Schlittler was dealing with lat soreness starting in the midway point of 2025 that kind of fell under the radar, wasn't overly reported on. And it's from an article on February 25th that discusses it. Now, maybe I just missed it last year. Maybe it was talked about, but I didn't really realize. I didn't realize that there was anything. Now, it wasn't supposed to be major, but the fact that it still was lingering, they skipped the bullpen session at the start of camp. He's also described having some back soreness. So I'm not getting the warm and fuzzy feeling. I worry, like Justin said, about the whip. Even throughout the minors, the whips were routinely into the mid 120s, like even at AA 121, AAA 123. We're probably getting a
whip. Had some walk issues in the minors, absolutely. Yeah.
We're probably getting a 1-3 whip or 1-2 something. 1-2 something.
If it's over 125, you can't take him at 132.
That's kind of where
that's way too high. Like whip, man, when you're talking whip at that level, at that price point. Now, he can have a good enough ERA, strikeouts, and wins that he can counter it. But if we're projecting 128 plus and 130 for some of them, for a pick at 132, I can't do it.
He's never been below 120. He's never been, except in 2024 at high A for 86 innings. He was at 113, and that's the best number he's ever had at any level. It's scary.
Justin?
I would argue that he has changed a little bit of the way he's pitched from 2024 and before to 2025. You look at that zone percentage, he jumped it up 10% between the low minors and AAA and the majors last year. He made a purposeful change. The Yankees had to make a purposeful change to attack the zone more. Mm-hmm. Now, this lat issue is concerning to me, and I'm now currently going to drop him down my board because I didn't realize this either. So, but I think his whip will probably be in the 115-ish range, and I can double check my projection on him as
it was 122 in the majors last year, though. I guess I'm a little bit nervous. If Schlittler, so you said he's attacking the zone more. That's going to be the key then. So I'm going to be looking in these last 3 weeks of spring to see if he can make a tangible improvement on his walk rate.
His zone percentage in the majors last year was 55%. That would be higher than pretty much that entire list I was talking about, right? I think it was even higher than the last guy we were talking about. Now I'm blanking on who it was, but Lodolo. So like he's attacking the zone, right? And in AAA last year, that was 52.5%, which would have put him above Skubal still, right, in terms of highest in baseball from a qualified perspective, and below Lodolo, but not very much below Lodolo. So like if we see him attacking the zone and we see that he's healthy, I'm still a buyer.
You still buying Schlittler then if you see those things? Okay.
So not every time. Like he's not a Nolan McLean guy with me where like I've got him circled on my board. But yeah, in some drafts there will be Schlittler on my team.
It's definitely hard to, and you're trying to do it with McLean, but it is hard to target guys in that range that like 80 to 120 and always get them, because sometimes you're going to have somebody in there swoop you. But Schlittler's going to be one to watch. I'm holding a little firm right now, and then as spring starts for him, which is supposed to be tomorrow, I'm going to take a look at it. He's at 39 for me, so I'm not like completely out here, but I could move him up above this guy, Nolan McLean or something. Nobody likes that guy, though, so I'm not too worried about it. That's so funny. I did not even see that you put that scroll.
I literally just did it right now.
For those not watching, he has a scroll now that says, I love Nolan McLean. All right, that's going to do it for part 2. We're going to expand these eventually. We're doing 2025 guys, but I like deep diving these guys. Those were some great discussions that we had. And these are guys that you're picking to be your ace if you're waiting on pitching, or your 2 or your 3, right? You're putting some real investment in them. So I like deep diving them. And I think the next few tiers are still going to bring a lot of that deep dive with it. But gentlemen, great speaking with you. Don't go around stealing stuff on the internet. I'll talk to you guys later.
Take it easy.